In the last century, nobles, in order to demonstrate their value, either became explorers of the Arctic areas, officers in the armed forces, or racing drivers. Carlo Felice Trossi, Count of Pianvillar, was one of the latter. Son of industrialists in the wool sector from Biella, grandson of bankers and explorers, he was passionate about engines since he was a child. His 11-year career was punctuated by a long series of successes in national and international Grand Prix as a driver of the Scuderia Ferrari racing team since the beginning, of which he was also financier and president. Trossi achieved 24 victories and 18 podiums, 28 times with Alfa Romeo cars and 12 with Maserati cars he owned. In 1940, Trossi became official driver of the newly formed Alfa Corse racing team, founded in 1938 following the closure of the Scuderia Ferrari. Over the years, many cars such as Mercedes-Benz, Packard, Maserati, and others entered in the Count's garage. In 1945, Alfa Romeo made one of the 6-cylinder 2.500 Supersport chassis that remain in storage available to the Count. This chassis, number 915510, was part of a small batch built between 1942 and 1943, which had been ordered by the Oberkommando der Wehrmacht of northern Italy and never delivered due to the worsening of war events. Trossi had the chassis body at the Touring Body Shop in Milan. This company had established itself in previous years for having built numerous racing cars both for the Scuderia Ferrari and the Alfa Corse racing teams. Touring had achieved many successes thanks to the superleggera construction method, an aeronautically inspired frame construction technique that guaranteed lightness and rigidity of the body at the same time. At the end of World War II, the founder of Touring, Felice Bianchi Anderloni, together with his son Carlo Felice, both engineers, began to study new body lines to modernize the 6-cylinder 2.500 chassis after Alfa Romeo had decided to continue their production. The result obtained was a 2-seater 3-volume coupe with less modeled lines than the previous ones. The front section of the car remained the predominant one thanks to the highly sculpted bonnet, the reduced grille, which has become characteristic of the Alfa Romeo brand after the stylization made by Touring, and the bumpers integrated into the fenders, and the two large headlights embedded in the front. These very elegant lines, however, did not completely convince the Count, who asked for changes in the drawings. His car had to remain the typical elegance of the Touring style without losing the sporting character of the Alfa Romeo. So Trossi asked for a front with 4 headlights to better illuminate the road at night and a more aggressive side without chrome profile. The result was to lower the belt line under the bonnet by moving back the volumes on the fenders inside the doors. Furthermore, the wheel arches were equipped with a slide band connected to a narrow side platform, which visually increases the ground effect. The rear part was characterized by the well-defined shoulder on the axle, a wider pillar, and a lower trunk, thus making it, in all respects, a 2.5-volume car. The volumes on the roof and the splitted windscreen remained the same. The interior consisted in 2 bucket seats, a Spartan metallic dashboard like the one adopted in racing cars, and a black bakelite steering wheel. As in the racing cars, 4 Borani spoked rim wheels were fitted. The specification requested by the Count convinced Bianchi Anderloni to the point that the 4 front headlights became the main feature of all subsequent models built on the 6-cylinder 2.500 Supersport chassis. And over time, this acquired simpler and cleaner lines, always maintaining balance in the volumes. Given the Count's typical English dressing style, this two-seat Supersport Coupé was painted in London grey with black wheels, just as black shoes must to match to the grey suit. But the connection with England was more intrinsic. The family manufacturing company founded by his father Carlo in London in 1905, Società Anonima Pettinatura Italiana Limited, had English partners, and its registered office was in Bradford, West Yorkshire, while the factory was in Vigliano Biellese. Furthermore, two enameled plaques were screwed onto the front bumpers, one from the British Racing Drivers Club and the other from the British Automobile Racing Club, two organizations of which Trossi had been active member since 1935, as well as being the only Italian to be a member. The first was responsible for representing the interest of motorsport in general and was made up of long-experienced racing drivers, while the second was responsible for organizing competition and the racing driver trips. The car was then delivered to the Count in summer of 1946. On October 3rd of the same year, the first post-war motor show opened in Paris. Italy, as a nation defeated by the Allied powers, was not admitted, as I've already told in a previous video. However, Count Imomaggi, recently elected president of the newly formed Associazione Sportiva Automobilisti Italiani, decided to represent Italy in Paris anyway, thanks to the informal invitation of the French racing drivers, whom he knew well since the day when they raced together with Bugatti cars. In fact, it was his old friend Jean-Pierre Wimille, official racing driver of Alfa Corse, who acted as a link. Thus, a convoy was organized consisting of 4 Alfa Romeo 6-cylinder 2.500 Supersport, all body by Touring, as well as a standard car made available by the factory. The car, owned by the racing driver Wimille, Trossi, Giulio Binda and by the engineer Guido Cattaneo, arrived to the Le Campion garage in Paris in the morning, where they were awaited by the French racing drivers. From here they paraded through the streets of Paris to the Grand Palais, where they stopped for the opening of the motor show. Finally, in the late afternoon, they gathered in front of the headquarters of the Automobile Club de France in Place de la Concorde, where a gala reception was planned in which both French and Italian racing drivers took part. The unexpected presence of the Italian cars lined up in front of the Grand Palais and the crowd formed to admire them made the headlines in the newspaper on the next day, demonstrating that Count Maggi's aim had been fully achieved. In September 1947, the Automobile Club of Biella organized the 11th edition of the Biella Europa Hill Climb Race. This competition took place on a route of just over 11 kilometers, which from the center of Biella led to the sanctuary of Europa, dedicated to the Black Madonna. The entire uphill stretch was on dirty road. Trossi had won this race in 1932, setting the still unbeaten record, but this time he didn't enter it. However, the Count was given the burden and honor of testing the route with a verification lap, timed by the Cavalier Agostino Calosso, official timekeeper from the Automobile Club of Turin. He was accompanied on the climb by the youngest registered racing driver, a certain Umberto Maglioli, also from Biella, who would prove successful in the following decade. In the 1948 racing season, Trossi took part again as official racing driver of the Alfa Corse and achieved the last podium in the Grand Prix of Autodromo held on the Monza racetrack on 17 November 1948, qualifying second behind his lifelong friend Wimille and ahead of his teammate Consalvo Sanesi, all driving the new Alfetta 158. Unfortunately, the Count was defeated early by a cancer, and died in Milan 6 months later at the age of 41. Today, the Alfa Romeo chassis number 915510 is preserved in a Swiss collection perfectly restored. Many thanks for watching. Please subscribe and share this video.